Hello again, and welcome to another Inclusive Angles podcast. I'm Nakwa Kwabla. Today I have a man of many hats, but first and foremost, he's an international journalist, a digital media specialist, and a media literacy advocate. He currently works as an editor with Global South World, a founding editor as such, and he previously worked with Africanews. He was editor-in-chief of the AfricaWeb group, under which we had Ghana Web, Tanzania Web, Cameroonian Web, name it. In 2024, he was chosen as a McCain Global Leader, and that is part of the McCain Institute, a non-partisan organization which was inspired by the late U.S. Senator John McCain. Ismail Akwei is my guest today. Akwei, Obake.
How do you respond to that?
You were a guy, you're asking me how do you respond to that?
So we were fighting over the Akwaba Obake thing. I forgot about the response to it. But Oyuwaladon, thank you. But
Kind
you're
of.
not saying it rightly in Ghana.
Yeah, say the right one.
Obake. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which means, you've come back again, something like that.
Oh, I see.
And it's the same thing as Akwaba.
Yeah.
Akwaba.
We need to learn our languages. Anyway, Good to have you on here.
Well, I'm excited to be here.
Akwei, you seem to be always founding something. How did you get into journalism in the first place?
Well, for journalism, I think it started when I was in senior high school. So in Form 2, I had a little radio. I was very bored in school. The whole routine was very boring. So a friend of mine had a radio set, a little radio, a battery-powered radio, and he didn't have a use for it. He brought it to school, didn't have a use for it. I got the batteries and I asked him, can I use it? He said yes. And I was also having insomnia, something
at that young age.
Yes, I never slept at night. So at night when everyone was asleep, I was listening to radio. And my favorite channels, I was in Cape Coast. There were just 3 radio stations at the time. The campus radio station, ATL FM. There was another one, I think Ogwa FM also. One of them played BBC through the night. The other played VOA News through the night.
Yeah.
And then the other plays, I think, Dutch Valley News, DW News through the night. So I had a lot of options to listen to. And I listened to all of them. And normally at that time of the night, there are a lot of breaking stories because of the whole time difference. So we get a lot of the reports, the documentaries, the features were coming up at night. And I enjoyed them. I loved them. And I felt like, why are our stories not being told like that? And I felt a bit different. So I wanted to do that. I knew I wanted to be a journalist. And when I was done with school, I just applied to a journalism school. And I didn't look back since then.
So it was the storytelling, how the story was told.
Yes.
That attracted you.
Yes. And it felt like a visuals in my mind. I could see the story in my mind's eye. And it felt so good. And I love history as well. So it connected the history, the storytelling, and also the whole knowledge and information about global affairs really got to me. And they tell the story by giving you background, bring you to the current issues, tell you the nuances and what is good, what is not good, and all of that. And it was enriching, really.
When I was growing up, my dad was an ardent listener of BBC. Was it Network Africa or something like that?
Yeah.
At 4 o'clock, oh my God, this man is on with this radio, and I get what you mean. With time, you get used to it. You feel like you even know some of the presenters, but you've never met them in your life. Anyway. But then how did it become, the international beats become your ultimate goal?
Well, it wasn't a goal earlier. I was challenged to run a news platform, online news platform in Cameroon while I was based in Ghana.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, let's start a platform that runs or publishes in French and English. And I was an English-only journalist at the time. So I was given the challenge by a former boss, and I took it up. I said, no, I'll do it. So I recruited journalists in Cameroon. We started working on gathering the stories and creating our own niche in French and in English. And I had to edit. So I had to use Google Translate to check the stories and be sure the stories are right and the facts are right. And this was in around 2014. And then I found an ad on LinkedIn that said, hey, there's a news platform that wants journalists. It's an international news platform and they're looking for online journalists. It wasn't an ad I saw. No, The consultants who are supposed to, recruit, they wrote to me. One of them wrote to me and says, "Hey, you are doing this, and we think you are a great fit for this role, but we can't tell you anything about it." And I said, "Okay, it's fine. I like challenges," so I decided to apply. I applied, and I was called. And at the time, I had a former mate who who was recruited to to Africanews.
Okay.
I did a story about her going there. So I didn't know that was what I was interviewing for. And right after the interview, I was told, "Well, this is it. And you have to move." And I'm like, "Yee." So I've gotten there finally. When I'm doing it from Ghana, now I'm moving to a different country to cover news
Yeah.
internationally. That was quite a big one for me.
But from African News, you didn't stop. You
No.
worked with several international organizations since then. Tell us about that.
Yes. So when I started feeling bored at African News, I feel bored very easily. I saw another ad that says they're looking for reporters to cover Africa. I checked out the platform. They were covering a lot of history stories and cultural stories. It was quite interesting for me, and that's face to face Africa. So it's a platform that's still live, and I applied to them and said, "Hey, I want to be a writer because I love this kind of beat." And they looked at my profile and said, "No, you overqualify for this role, but
Oh, how?
we, we want you to be the editor." Like, okay,
Okay.
they're giving me the editor role, then it's fine. And that's when I took up that role. And with that, the focus was on the US audience, and the cultural stories and the historical stories went beyond borders, was covering all Black people across continent. So from Africa to Asia to the US, North America, South America. So it was quite interesting. My scope really expanded, and we had writers from all these continents who were contributing to the platform, and it was fun. I really enjoyed that until
Yeah.
I moved from that to back to where I started, which was the AfricaWeb. And then we introduced Nigeria, mynigeria.com, and Tanzania Web.
I see. And now you're with Global South World. Actually, a place
Yes.
you were founding editor of.
Yes.
It's fairly new, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it started in 2023, so about 3 years ago. And I mean, a former colleague and boss reached out to me and said, "Hey, there's this platform we're starting, and I think you should check it out if you would want to do anything with the platform." So I checked it out, and then I thought, this is quite good because at the time I was moving gradually into consultancy, and it was going well. And when he said, "Well, this is another platform," I was asking myself, "Am I really ready to transition back into this whole system?" But
But the
he made
journalism in you could not resist.
he made it clear. What really caught my attention was the independence, the objectivity, and that free will to tell the story of people in Africa whose stories are not being told. Because the world deliberately, I'll call it that, I'll really say it's deliberately is nitpicking on the stories to publish. When it comes to Africa and then the global south, they're looking for stories that are mainly of negative they have negative forms and features because those ones sell. But for our stories that are positive, they say, "Well, it's not interesting," but it's interesting to us. So we
Yeah.
decided to give voices to the voiceless, tell the stories of those whose stories are not being told. And that objective, that aim is what got me to really, really want to be part of that project.
So you're part of the new media fray that has come on the continent.
Yes.
I know you've listened to the previous podcast where we talk about having African journalists telling their own stories, and it wasn't like that previous years. Now we do have, and we have people like yourself doing it. Tell us, how has it been? You talk about objectivity, telling the stories you want. Is it that easy?
Well, it's not easy because when we started, we decided to, let me say, democratize the online space by allowing people to share their voices. And we recently launched a new initiative called the Global South Voices. For the Global South Voices, we're giving access to our platform to all these content creators. Because in actual sense, on the online space, a lot of news platforms are losing revenue. A lot of news platforms are collapsing. They are not sustainable anymore because the online news space has evolved. Now we have a lot of journalists who have turned into content creators. We
Yep.
have a lot of a
Guilty
lot
as
of
charged.
yes, and a lot of content creators becoming journalists. So if you don't evolve with the time, you will be left behind. You lose your revenue and you die out. And when you die out, projects like ours that's supposed to bring out the voices of the voiceless will die out, and we can't do that because when you start chasing after views and traffic, you end up losing the essence of the stories you're bringing out. So at that point, you'll be wanting some revenue. You need to feed. You need to,
Yeah.
take care of yourself. But then you will lose the essence, and then the quality will be lost by
Yep.
Africans whose audiences are African, because a lot of the journalists who are African who are on social media platforms, their audiences are in their countries.
Yeah.
It's hard to transcend your country's borders to the US and other places because the algorithms don't allow you to. And then
Another point.
we decided to create Global South Voices, and we reached out to a lot of these content creators who are now creating a lot of stories, who have their own audiences in their countries. We brought them together into a network. And what we do is we get them to bring the stories that are untold in their regions, in their countries, onto our bigger platform. So the stories would really reach those in the global north. So our audiences are in the global north, and our voices and our stories are from the global south. So we are the bridge. And as the bridge, we thought, hey, this is what we need to do. We are not in for the money, but we are in for the, how do you call it? Some people say for the culture, but we are in for that agenda, which is to send the voices, the stories of people in Africa, in Asia, in even Eastern Europe, and in the global south in its entirety. And if we don't tell these stories of our own stories, they will tell the stories for us, and they do that all the time.
Real stories, not dancing and
No, not dancing, not dancing. Real stories, bringing out the knowledge and everything, so that the whole world will see that we are really a continent and also a region that's thriving, a region that is really successful as well.
But are there challenges that you've seen that we can work on as journalists in Africa reporting for the global audience? What can we
Yes, so
improve?
yes, there are a lot of challenges, but I'm seeing a lot of improvement as well. So the challenges, one, journalists, even though we are reporting the stories, we sometimes hold on to that old dogma. I'm calling it that.
Mm.
And you need to look at the story so that others will not say, no, you are being one-sided, or you can report the story and still tell your audiences if it is true, it is not true, it is misleading, and that's what fact checkers do. Fact checkers are still journalists, but they're
Yeah.
telling people, hey, this is the story that was told, but this story is half baked, this story is not full, and this story is not right, or it is right. And a lot of journalists are timid, they are scared, they feel the stories will be lost if they say it from their own perspective. And that's exactly what we are looking for. Say your perspective. Do you think the Iran Israel US conflict is affecting you? Do you think the US and Israel, they have the right to attack? Yours is to get your people to gain and have a broader mind to make their decision. But if you don't give them all the areas or the angles, how then can they make an informed decision? They'll end up taking the decision being made by Fox News, by CNN, and we hear them every day in, day out, telling us what to believe and telling us what is wrong and what is not wrong from their perspective.
Is
Or
it
this is
is it not self-censorship and then pressure from you know who?
Mm. But
So
if you have your governments coming out boldly, because we have a lot of Africans who are bold now. A lot of African presidents are very bold. Even Ghana's president is bold. Kenya, very bold. South Africa. I don't think they'll lose any funding. The only funding they'll lose is if their monies are tied to some Western businesses or Western organizations. I have not seen any big American companies funding any major media houses in Ghana, for instance. But yes, without them, these media are still thriving, even though it's difficult. And I don't think there should be a challenge in talking about what is really affecting your own people.
Our time is almost up, but before we wrap up, I would want to talk about your non-profit organization, Media Literacy Development Foundation. I like that you work with young people a lot. You have Zongo Media, Junior Journalists, and Communicators Club. Information is power. Thank you for giving back to society.
Thank you.
Well, listeners, Ismail Akwei has been our guest. I'll put his information in our newsletter so you get to see the good work he's doing in Africa.